these new Pokemon designs are so boring. Why can't we go back to the good old days when they actually cared about what they made? You mean back when there was a rat, a caterpillar, a bee, a butterfly, a dog, a bigger dog, a different dog that's now a fox with 9 tails, a Pokeball, an upside down Pokeball, a bird with 2 heads that evolves into 3 heads, a head that evolves into 3 heads, a seal, a slightly bigger seal, my dick, and what comes out of my dick? Yeah, well, at least we don't have an ice cream cone. Not anymore, you don't.
Pokemon has brought people together for almost 30 years, as well as making everyone hate each other even more. Ever since I was a kid, I always wondered what they would do for the next games and what new Pokemon would look like. You should have seen the look on my face when I learned that Mew 3 wasn't a real thing.
There is no God!
Fan-made and fake Pokemon designs have been around since nearly the inception of the franchise. Everyone loves creating their own ideas for what they think could be cool for the next games. There's just one difference between most of these artists and myself. You see, they can draw. I am horrible at drawing, and that might be giving myself too much credit. I only ever got a C in one class in school, and that was in art because my teacher thought I wasn't trying. Nope, I just suck that badly. I had the idea for new Pokemon since I was around 6 or 7 years old and came up with names and ideas for new Pokemon over the years. I wrote down and drew all of these Pokemon as a kid and eventually created a Word document with them all when I was around 12 or 13 years old. Unfortunately, childhood me threw away all the original drawings, so I had to redraw these all from memory over the past couple of years, which means they should all look good since I'm 26 now, right?
You fucking wish!
I am giving you full warning that these drawings are not ideal, but if anyone would like to redraw these designs into actual Fakemon designs, I would definitely be interested in paying, so just reach out to me and then I can make a follow-up to this video with new designs down the line. I also want to preface these by saying, you know how the newer games have started giving regional variants to Pokemon like Alolan Ninetales, and then new evolutions of those forms like Berserker or Clodsire? Well, I had that exact same idea as a kid, so you will see I have some regional forms and regional evolutions I created for some older Pokemon. They're all from Gen 6 or before, but the Gen 5 and 6 ideas only came within the last year, while the others all came from when I was 13 or younger. So please, don't call me a copier when you see my Dunsparce have an evolution, because I had this idea 15 years before Scarlet and Violet. Game Freak stole my ideas!
I think I've talked enough about the design, so let's just jump right in and take a look at my fan-made Pokemon region, the Tanru region.
Well, this is a little different. So the rest of this video is not really going to be scripted. I'm just going to kind of go through my Pokemon region here because, yeah, I don't really know how to do this in a scripted format. It seems kind of weird to be doing it that way. So we're just going to go right through this. So, as I just said, the name of this region is the Tanru region. Do not ask me how I came up with that. I came up with it when I was like 8 or 9. I think I just thought it sounded cool. I thought always having a letter at the end that doesn't, actually make a sound was always a cool thing, so that's why it's Tanru with an S. But the names of the game are Pokemon Heart and Spade. I was trying to come up with something that was completely different from each other, opposites, I guess Diamond and Pearl aren't really opposites, but, so we got Heart and Spade, because, well, you'll see with the legendaries, which, yeah, whatever. And then we got Pokemon Club, the 3rd version, because Pokemon Diamond already exists. Screw Game Freak for stealing my idea. The region is based off of Africa. I wanted to come up with an idea that was just, not already taken. I'm honestly surprised I didn't do, the US, because I came up with this before Unova existed. I don't know why I went with Africa, to be honest, but I've always thought Africa was probably the coolest continent, so that's probably why. I see 140 new Pokemon. Yeah, I have 140 Pokemon, plus some of the regional forms, which you will see, because I came up with that idea before Game Freak. I just have a big brain. I also think it was just a freaking obvious idea to do. The name of the evil team is Team Colossus. Again, just tried to come up with a cool name that wasn't already taken, because, well, at the time I made this, it was like, Galactic was probably the most recent. I wanted to come up with something cool sounding, and if they would have taken Colossus in a real game, I would have had to change it, and thank gosh they didn't. 8 gym leaders, Elite 4. This was before they ever came up with ideas for freaking trial captains and stuff like that, so I wasn't going to do that. And then more gyms and an expanded region of the post-game, because my first game was gold, so I always liked having a post-game with more gyms to do, so that's why. It's not quite the same, to be honest. And then the Pokemon World Championships. I had that idea before Black and White to fight all the previous gym leaders, or not gym leaders, like champions. But you will see, I obviously updated it once new games came out, so you will see, like, Leon from Gen 8 is in the tournament. How did I know Leon was going to be in there when I was freaking 8 when I came up with this? I'm just a time traveler. So, here are the box arts. Yes, my drawing skills suck, but it's not too bad. I mean, you can tell what it is. Like, if you can't tell that the Pokemon Heart Legendary is a freaking mermaid, maybe you should get your eyes checked. Pokemon's made, it's like a molten... He's supposed to be made of, like, steel. Doesn't really look like that, but he's like a steel dinosaur kind of melting skeleton. And then Pokemon Club, that is the third legendary. He just looks kind of like a bald dude. Kind of looks like Mr. Clean, just without being white. He's like blue, purplish, periwinkle, I guess you would say. And then you can see in the background, there's like a silhouette, because that is spoilers, I can't say, because that one's found in water, at a volcano, obvious backgrounds. And yeah, here is the Mount Colossus is the name of the mountain. So here is the region. You start here in Geneseo Town. As I like play on words, I needed to come up with a name that started like with beginning. And as a kid, I was forced to go to church, so Genesis was on the top of my mind, so Geneseo Town. Wow, who would have guessed? So you start in Geneseo Town, and you make your way up to Bauer Town right here. Find all the early route Pokemon. I'm just going to give you a brief overview of the order you kind of go, because then we're going to get into the Pokédex, and yeah, if you don't want to see all this crap and just want to see the Pokemon, just skip to the Pokédex portion. I'm sure that's why the vast majority clicked on this video. You come down here to Carven City, which is where the first gym is. You make your way up to Tolliver Town, which is where the second gym is. Make your way back down here to Bauer Town, down through here to Velix Bay, which is where the third gym is, because I always kind of like doing a little bit of like a backtracking thing, so you have to end up going back to Bauer Town, then you make your way up through here, then you can go west from Tolliver Town into Zerani City, up north and to the west to Pristine City, which is where the fourth gym is. Then over here we got the big desert. I bet you can't guess what this desert is based off of, called Sarafi, a little bit on the nose, because it's the, you know, like people talk about the safari. Obviously the safari isn't the Sahara Desert, but it's close enough, so shut up. So yeah, you make your way through the desert here. Adventure City is where the fifth gym is. Karzine City over here is the sixth gym. Rector Town down here is the seventh gym. Down here, Underwood City on Madagascar, Makadar Jungle, again, little on the nose, is the 8th gym. And then you have to make your way back up here where you go into, you know, I guess, Saudi Arabia, where Mount Colossus and the Elite Four is. And then over here, as you can probably see, these little islands are called the Talus Islands. These is the extended region for the post game. I literally just took the image that I made of the islands and just cropped it and put it here, so that's why it looks so horrible. But on the next page, it's a little bit better. You can see a little bit more of it. I cannot remember the order of these frickin' gyms in the post game off the top of my head, because I just think of the main game. Maybe I shouldn't have done a post game version, because I'm already forgetting what the heck's going on. Ice here, Shifting Mountain, Borvis City, Carver City, Mount Gorine, Udraport, Talus City, Henry Town, and Etrix City, the exciting Talus Islands. Now that we're done with all the boring crap, I'm going to try not to swear because I don't want to bleep too much in this video. We're going to get to the starters here. So, this is the grass starter Ruto. The starters are like the only Pokemon, plus like maybe a couple others that I really tried to make look good. I do remember, I think I did find some like fake Pokemon online and like trace them and then just kind of like change them a little bit. So I do apologize if I don't give credit to who was actually the creator of this, because I do not remember for the life of me. I made this design probably, I mean, the drawing looked pretty similar to this when I was a kid. I don't remember, to be honest. It's over 5 years ago, for sure. Like, I was in high school, so it had to have been a minimum, I graduated in 2016, so minimum of 7 years ago. So, yeah, very long time ago. But this is Ruto. He's a little grass type here. He's kind of cute, just obviously looks like a seed. He's a root. Can I get any more on the nose? Then we got Flowick. I kind of say Flowick, but I feel like it probably should be Flowick. Is the evolution in these grass electric type. You will see I have a lot of completely either unused type combinations or just random ones that I, at least at the time, I thought would have been cool. So that's why I wanted to make a grass electric type. And so this is what Flowick looks like. It's like a sunflower, but it's got, a little electric going through it. So it's, got a little bit of electric. I also don't want to make this video too long, so some of these Pokemon I'm going to go very quickly over, but the starters obviously need to get a little bit more in-depth talk about them. Then we have Voltimber, the final Pokemon, or the final evolution, I guess you could say, of Ruto. And that's what he looks like. He's a little palm tree. Again, I'm like 95% certain this was a fakemon I found online somewhere and just traced it. I apologize, and I want to give credit to whoever that is, so if you let me know, I will give you a shout out for sure. My general idea was always a palm tree with electric, and like the coconuts kind of have electricity in them. That was always my general idea. No, he's not my favorite starter. You will see my favorite starter. It's the water one, because I'm a freaking water type fanatic, and it's my second favorite animal, or maybe favorite animal, whatever you want to say. But let's move on. Fire type, we have Burke, the fire snake. Burn snake. Yeah, very creative name. You will probably notice that with a lot of my names. It's literally just like whatever the animal is plus some kind of term for whatever type it is. So he is a fire type and he evolves into Blazebra, the Blaze Cobra, again on the nose. He's a fire poison type. Created this before Salandit, but I do love Salazzle. Very cool Pokemon. So I was very happy to create this. And at the end of his tail, he's got sort of like a lamp, kind of. It doesn't really look like a lamp. It looks more like a phallic object, to be honest, and not get into specifics. And then the final form is Venazant, the Blaze Serpent. So it's like Venom, Blaze, Serpent, all together into one word. Again, poison, fire type. And he looks like that. Kind of looks like Charizard in the face when I really look at it. And his tail is, again, like a lantern, because it's a fire type. I think he would probably be the fan favorite if this was a real game. But the best starter, Splask, the water starter. He is an elephant. I love elephants. It was always my favorite animal for the longest time. Until recently, I've recently started to say maybe crocodiles are my favorite animal, but definitely one of my favorite animals. And he evolves into Elqua, who is, the middle stage elephant here. Also in that little teenage year that, middle stage evolutions always have, where they look a little awkward. That's kind of the point. But he evolves into Sunafant, because like tsunami, elephant, obviously. And he's a water fighting type. Also, I didn't mention that, water fighting. And you know how everything goes from quadrupedal to bipedal? Yep, that happens here too. The thing on his stomach was supposed to be like a wave. It just looks like a freaking anchor. Not even an anchor, just looks like, I don't even know what to call it, just looks like hair from my pubes. And as you notice, like the little gem that's on his tail moves onto his forehead. I thought that was kind of cool. He doesn't have a tail. He probably does. I've never made a back sprite. I never really thought about it. Now, you will see a lot of these Pokemon, because they were made so long ago, I kind of just copied the ideas from Gen 1, because those are the games I played. Like Gen 1, 2, and 3. The games I played way more than all the others. So we have like the Pidgey here. Looks like a fucking turkey, E-fowl. It's just the normal flying type, a little basic. You can find it all over the region here, as you can see. Then we evolves into Efauna. This, I think, is the worst drawing in the entire thing. It looks horrible. I can't even lie about it. And then Ebatros. I like the color scheme on the head. That's all I can really say about Ebatros. He's just a basic bird. Then we have Hunbee. This, I had an idea for a bee Pokemon around, I think this, honestly, I don't remember if I had this idea before or after Combee. Because I think it might have been after, because I remember Hornass is supposed to be like the male Vespiquen. It's a wasp, but it's like male. But I don't think I ever actually said it only can be male or anything like that, so that might just be something I came up in my head years later. But yeah, Hornass, so this is basically, like, kind of the Beedrill of the region. That might have also been where I got the idea from. And then we have Kani, here, the puppy Pokemon. Just a cute little puppy dog. I love dogs, so I had to make one. Evolves into Carnareek, a little bit bigger dog, The first dog kind of reminds me of my mom's dog. This reminds me sort of my brother's dog. And then we have Lunoreek. So again, I had the idea for a moon dog before Lycanroc. Now, obviously, this is not it is a dark type. It's not a rock type, because I feel like I don't have that many rock types in this gen. But whatever. So it evolves during the nighttime, and this is Lunoreek. It looks kind of stupid, to be honest. My drawings are so bad. That's Lunoreek. He is the basic dog, sort of like the Stoutland, but this is like, I think I was basing this more of like Poochyena, kind of, is like where my ideas came from having a dog Pokemon, and then obviously being a dark type. You could kind call it similar to Mightyena, except he's got a moon on his forehead, which looks like it's on his cheek because of the side drawing. Then we've got Farilla. So this is the Caterpie kind of the region. It's just a little pink caterpillar, nothing basic. And you will see that I updated these once Gen 6 came out because, well, damn it, I thought Farillis was fairy type. That just looks like a fucking piece of poop, but we'll move on. That's the middle evolution, and then Feroth, the bug fairy type, as you can see. Looks like he's just taking a sip of LSD. Welcome to the club, I am too. He looks pretty cool. I really like his shiny. I like the blue. I'm a sucker for blue. Blue and green are my two, well, green's my favorite, purple second. I guess I'm just a liar. Blue's my third favorite color. But I do really like that shade of blue, and yeah, this is basically, you know, the Butterfree, the Venomoth kind of thing of the region. He's a moth. And then this is like the Spearow and Fearow of the region. You're gonna see this go on a lot. I apologize. So this is Recrow. Looks like a dumb little duck. Basically what he is, except he's a crow. So not really sure why he looks like that. And then Rilcon evolves into a falcon. Basically just bigger, got some little, like, you know, tassels on his wing, and he's got claws because he's a fighting type. And he's a bird. Not sure where that really goes with anything. Then we've got Viddy, the electric kitty. I don't even know. I was expecting my cat to maybe come around because, yes, I do have a cat. Sorry about if you see a cat jump on my lap, that's why. So this is the electric type. So this is kind of like the Pikachu. He's not that there is a Pikachu clone later down the line that you will see. This is just a basic electric type you find early in the region, maybe like a Shinx kind of Viddy, and then Ellicat, the evolution. Pretty basic cat. We've got Rupik here. Looks like my toilet this morning when I pooped out my, what are those frickin' ring pops called? That's what it looks like. Honestly, it looks like a potato now that I really look at it. I could have made it a pure circle because look at Diamanic, the evolution. I made the sides even. I made it actually look decent. But yeah, this is like the basic rock type of the region, you know, sort of like the Geodude Rubik, and then Diamanic, rock, fairy type. I feel like I added fairy to a lot of these Pokemon once Gen 6 came out because I thought fairy type was so cool at the time. Which you will see the next Pokemon, Yixie, Pixie Pokemon. It's a fairy type. It looks sort of like a human. He's supposed to be like really small, like a little baby, sort of like a Tinkerbell kind of thing, but with like two little hairs because it's a child. And then evolves into Noixie, who's just yelling all the time, which is why there's a male and a female version, because, you know, long hair, short hair versus male, female. You'll see this a lot in my shinies too, where I just swap the colors. Yellow wings, purple body, just swaps the two. Then we have the oddish Gloom Vileplume. So we got Volb here. Basic little bulb Pokemon, kind of cute. I like the shiny again, purple and blue. Then we have Venob, so he's got a little poison added to him. He's grass poison now. He's getting some odor. He's starting to open up a little bit. And then we have Toxibulb, the final form, where he's got a freaking Venus flytrap coming out of his head. How does that happen? I don't know, but it looks cool. Now we have Hyphen here. So again, I had the idea for a dolphin Pokemon before Scarlet and Violet. I think every single person did, so I can't really claim credit for that. You know what we do here in Pokemon when we have a Pokemon that we don't really know how to make an evolution for? We make it bigger and add random dots to it. So we have Zyphon here, the water psychic type. I'm not gonna lie, I think Palafin, the buff one, is probably cooler than this, but I do really like this Pokemon. I would definitely use this. Maybe not, because I'd probably pick Splask as the water starter. Now we have Javik here, the fighting type. This is the basic, you know, like Machop, kind of, except he doesn't evolve twice, he only evolves once, as you will see, which is Vitunch. Just looks a little bigger. He's got abs, still bald, because I think my idea for him is kind of like a bear, but he doesn't really look much like a bear. Then we have Flakull here. Just a floating skull and fire. What a great idea. And then Torps is just a corpse. It's a burning skeleton. I do also love when fire types have a blue fire shiny, so that's again why this one has that. We have Digru. Again, it's like the Sandshrew of the region. I think you're really seeing a trend here. Little cute little shrew here. And he evolves into Duggle. Again, you will see Diglett, Digru, Dugtrio, Duggle. When I'm really thinking back at this, my childhood self was not creative. But again, I really like sometimes where they do this, where they swap the colors from the pre-evolution and the evolution for the shinies. So that's what I did here. That's something that I always think is kind of cool. Dushin, the dark being Pokemon. He's just a cute little guy with one head. He's waving hi to you. And then we have Shadorsh, Shadorse. Sorry about that. Where he's just a little bigger, he's got 2 more arms, and they're basically all blades, and they will slice you in half. So he goes from being cute and friendly to wanting to murder you. Next, we have Ingolt. Take a wild guess as to what Pokemon this is based off of. Just look at the type, and you can tell it is Magnemite. But this is Ingolt. He's literally an ingot. This is supposed to be like the eye, is how he sees out of it. And then Ingolt. He's a little bit bigger. He's got some little stubby arms here. He's cute, though. And then Machholt, the final form, where he's more of like a machine now. I wanted to make something that was more of a machine-like than just a living being, so this is the only thing I could come up with, and I feel like it's such a blatant copy. So many of them are. Game Freak, don't cease and desist me, please. Next, we have Fruin. This happened before Piplup, so you better not call me a copier. So Fruin is a water ice type little penguin. His beak is supposed to basically be like an icicle. That's sort of like my idea that I had. That's why it's that color. And same with his feet, are supposed to be like made of ice. And then we have Emprise, the Emperor Penguin Pokemon. Basically just a bigger penguin. He's got a little ice crown on his head. He's got ice claws, ice feet, ice beak still. Pretty similar, pretty standard evolution. I made a bunch of Pokemon Eevee evolutions after Gen 4 because I saw Glaceon and Leafeon and I was like, we need to have more evolutions. Then they made Sylveon and I was like, oh, they're gonna make even more. It's now after Gen 9 and we still only have Sylveon. I didn't want to make like a toxic stone or something like that. Badly poisoned from the toxic tonic item. Yes, that's just the most random thing I ever made up. But that's Toxeon. Again, a very... I can't draw cats, as you probably can tell, or dogs, or really anything. Then we have Quakeon, the ground type, exposed to a sandstone during a sandstorm. And, you know, his tail is like... There is a freaking monster, alien, whatever you want to call it, from Lilo and Stitch that I was thinking of when I made this. I remember. I can't remember the name of it. If I can think of it, I will put it on screen right now. That is 100% what I thought of for like the tail on this. And we have Fanteon, the Phantom Pokemon. So again, it's just the ghost type. Little white ghost for the evolution. Just basically an Eevee with like some little spirit tassels on its back. Metaloy. Now this is a steel type. Little strong monster here. Looking kind of cute. And Metalord. Just looks like a bigger version here. Now here is the Pikachu clone, which looks horrible. Do not judge me too hard. You're allowed to judge me a little bit because it's not that great. I almost used AI to create this one. You will see I did use AI for one thing of this because I realized my drawing looked way too much just like people. So I needed to come up with something more like an actual like animal, not like my drawing. I almost did for this because that's the drawing. That almost just looks like a bad attempt at drawing Pikachu. It does not look like a rat at all. It looks more like a cat. Maybe I can't draw rats either. Next we have Meveal. So this is a little baby cow. Again, it doesn't really look like a cow to me. It almost looks more like a dog now that I'm looking at it. I had the idea for this because I always thought it was stupid that Tauros and Miltank weren't related. Like there should have been a pre-evolution. So that's the idea behind this. There's a like a little baby calf, which is Meveal, which has 2 evolutions if it's male or female. So we have Lactau here, which is, you know, a grass fairy type. It's more defensive, I believe. Yep, it's more defensive. And then there's a Bisol, which is grass fighting if it's a male. And this is a more aggressive, it's offensive oriented. They look very similar, but slightly different. We have Tolodo, the Dodo Pokemon, which I always thought was kind of stupid that we didn't have a Dodo bird Pokemon. Maybe we do, and I just can't think of it off the top of my head. But we have... His beak is drooping. He looks like me in the morning. Actually, probably his evolution looks more like me in the morning. This is me after a couple beers. So this is baby Tolodo, who evolves into Predadodo, which is just a bigger dodo bird with some claws. Or I guess you could say talons, because it does evolve from the Talon fossil, if I remember, yeah. And then we have Scorprid, the segmented Pokemon. This is a scorpion. Like, it's basically, you know, a giant scorpion from, like, ancient times. Obviously, the first evolution is kind of small, but then we have Scorperion, which looks like this. A much bigger scorpion. I think I have another scorpion Pokemon coming up here in, like, a couple Pokemon. Now we have the ghost type, Throst. Probably Throst, I like that more. The Thread Pokemon. So I had the idea of making Pokemon based on inanimate objects before Game Freak. So I ran out of ideas before they did. So we have Thread. Moving on. Pillos. The evolution, it's a pillow. Moving on. We have Matrost. It's a mattress. Best designs I've ever made. Then we have Blazat, the blazing bat here. Just a little bat with 3 eyes, sort of look like a devil. And then Infernat, basically just a bigger bat with a mouth now on its stomach, because I didn't want to put the mouth on its head because I thought this would make it look more creepy and demonic. Here's the other scorpion, Duskyon, bug dark type. Just a little dark scorpion. He's got 1 claw that's bigger than the other. And then Scorpusk, the giant scorpion. This idea, I believe if I remember correctly, the idea I had for this came from Skyward Sword. Wow, what a shocker, I referenced Skyward Sword. Sue me. Next we have Stumpyro. So this is the grass and fire type. Again, another typing that I thought is really cool and I thought was stupid that we didn't have for so long until they made Scovillain recently. But this is basically literally a stump with fire on its head, which evolves into Burnewood, which is a tree with fire on its head. Peak design right here. You can tell that it was made by a 7-year-old. Bormer, the Tremor Pokemon, a rock ground type. Looks like a little, just a little guy. He's got some giant rocks on his, for basically hands to make tremors and stuff like that. And then Kragger, again, looks same kind of thing. He's got like digging things on the top of his little boulder hands. And you can tell probably the design in the middle. What I thought of when I made this was Waka from I almost said Pokemon, from Paper Mario. If you've played that game, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm not going to say any more about it, but yeah, that's what the design in the head was. That's why I have him sticking out of the ground like that. Then we have Rock Crab, the Rock Crab Pokemon, which is a rock water type. Looks pretty damn cool, can't lie. And then we have Geobster, the Rock Lobster. Again, we need to have a Rock Lobster Pokemon. Literally, a rock crab and a rock lobster. He's got some little gemstones on him. And then Junction, not the first poison type, but this is sort of like the Trubbish Garbodor. I had that same kind of idea, except he's literally a trash can. The difference is, I think Junction is cute. It also evolves into Nucleage here, who is literally just a giant monster of nuclear waste. It's steel poison type, which again is another type. Do we have a steel poison type? But that's another type that I just thought was cool when I was younger. And then once fairy was created, I was like, oh, it's the perfect counter to fairy types. So it had to exist. And now I made a dragon type for each of the 3, starter types. We have Fernadra here, who is just a little fire lizard, who evolves into Torcazadra, a long lizard, well, like a snake. I don't know if you would consider him, actually, because he doesn't have back legs, but he has front arms, which snakes don't have, obviously. He's a fire dragon type. I think he's very cool. And then we have Larvish, which is the water version here. This is a little guy who evolves into Hiviathan, the water dragon type, who looks kind of like a shark head here. But I think Hiviathan, is one that could look really cool if it was actually designed by someone who doesn't suck at drawing. We also have Sea Dino here, who is the little grass dinosaur. This little raptor here, who evolves into Nature Raptor, Big Raptor, grass dragon type here. He's got a little bush on the back of his, I was going to say the back of his chest. That makes no freaking sense. His back. Then we have Magray here, the psychic type. Is this the first psychic type? No, Xiphon is a psychic type. Gotta remember that. Magray, the psychic type, is literally just like a floating brain. And then Mistray, floating brain with like hands, and you see eyes on that. I got that from Super Mario 64 and Wind Waker. That's where I came up with that idea. And then Mistoyan. Bet you can't guess where this is going. He's got 6 hands now. So this is sort of like the Alakazam of the regions, what I'm like thinking of in my head, because it doesn't evolve by trading or Thunderstone. Oh god, I put the or in there. Next we have Stalagdin, who's just a little cute stalagmite warrior Pokemon. I always picture him being like having a little smile. I didn't put a smile on this. Who evolves into Stalorier, who I think of like a frozen like warrior that you would see in like Lord of the Rings or something like that. It's kind of what I picture him. Obviously, those don't exist in Lord of the Rings, but that's what I picture him as, like some kind of warrior from that. Not an orc. Do not ever call Stalorier an orc. Drabiron. So this is a little baby dragon, based off Baby Dragon from Yu-Gi-Oh! That's all it is. Who evolves into Drabalaron, dragon adolescent, so he's a middle stage, growing up dragon. And then we have Dragzanil, the destruction dragon, who, again, I got the idea, I think my idea was this was making like Dragonite, but like very long, which that's kind of a spoiler as you'll see something later. Then we have Minilodon here. So it's just a little shark Pokemon. He's a water steel type. I was gonna say, I had this idea before Game Freak, but technically I didn't. Because they have a Pokemon from the Pokemon Gold, like, demo, which is like a shark with an anchor tail. Which I had the same exact idea, and I was going to say I had that first, but technically that came out in, like, what, that leak is from, like, 97 or 98, so I was just born or 1 year old. So technically they had the idea first, but they never made it into a real Pokemon, so I beat them to it. So we have Mini-Lodon here, who evolves into Gigalodon. It's a Megalodon Pokemon, again, Water Steel. Just a big shark with an anchor for a tail. Again, I think that's just a really cool idea, so they definitely should make this eventually. This was based off sort of like Teddy Ursa and Ursaring, but if it wasn't a basic normal type, because he's an electric fighting type, he's just a cute little teddy bear. And then Grizzlite, the evolution, also electric fighting, just a big grizzly bear who's got like electricity coming out of his fists. Then we have Shreep here, the shrub sheep. Bet you can't guess what this looks like. A sheep with a shrub. We have Jokun here, the Jolt Raccoon. He's just an electric raccoon. Again, I needed to have a couple Pokemon that didn't evolve because I realized I had so many that did. So I needed to have a couple in here that didn't evolve. Then you have Ferorse. This is the fairy pony Pokemon. So a fairy, just a little pink pony, evolves into Ferrocorn, fairy flying type. A Pegasus, this is what freaking Galarian Rapidash should have been. It should have been a Pegasus. So stupid that it wasn't. Ice Cardinal Pokemon. This might be the worst drawing in the whole video, although I did just show you what Ferrocorn looked like, so maybe not. Then it evolves into Glaciard, which is the Glacier Buzzard Pokemon, another ice flying. Just sort of got icicles coming from its wings here. That's what I thought would just look cool. Then we have Koger, Ice Fire type, a type that should have existed before freaking Galarian Darmanitan Zen mode. It's stupid that's still the only one that exists. He's a little tiger cub, he's a white tiger that is an Ice Fire type. And then Sabrost is the evolution. I think of his his like saber teeth as being icicles, and he's got blue fire for his tail. And then his shiny has red fire, because so many Pokemon go from red-orange to blue fire. So I thought it would be cool to do the opposite for the shiny, so that's why he's got that. And then we have Phantom, one of my favorite freaking Pokemon names I've made, because he's a Phantom Ant, Ghost Ant, Phantom. That's all it is. We have Spazed here, the bug fire type. He's a little fire spider. And then Arazula, a big fire spider. Again, I kind of got this idea from Shelob from Lord of the Rings. A lot of the ideas I had came from movies, TV shows, games I played as a kid. Electrolisk is this a little electric snake Pokemon. Next we have Dilectrolisk, which is the two-head snake Pokemon. Looks like that. And then Dilectricra. Again, just a bigger two-headed snake with wings now because it's a dragon. Then we have Diglopod here. It's just a little millipede Pokemon. Cute little thing. And Terrapede. I think it's just a giant millipede where its mouth kind of looks like from Pirates of the Caribbean 2. At the very end when Jack Sparrow gets eaten by the Kraken. Spoilers, sorry if you haven't seen a movie that came out 2 decades ago. Then we have Feehone. He's a fish that's made of bones. Water Ghost type. Water and Ghost are my 2 favorite typings, so I needed to make some Pokemon that was those 2 typings. I just had to. Then we have Choplin, a little chopping goblin Pokemon. He's kind of... I like him. He kind of reminds me of Impidimp now that I think about it. I think he's cool. And he evolves into Cyclin, a slicing goblin. So now his fists, like his arms, are blades, but he's still got a thumb. That's what I think of him as. So he can still grab stuff, but he doesn't have fingers. He just has a blade. And then we have Dartox, the dart frog Pokemon, Ice Poison. Another type we don't have. So I just thought we'd make a frog that's a poison dart frog, but make him an ice type. He'll live in at frozen lakes and stuff like that. And his evolution is Dendrox, who just looks like a bigger frog. It looks sort of like a horned frog. Horned frog. Like, sort of like, I think of like the TCU, if you know that college, like what their design looks like their logo. And then another type that doesn't exist, Rock Ghost. Why does this not exist, Game Freak? We have Pebirit here, the Pebble Spirit Pokemon. It's just literally a pebble with like a ghost spirit inside of it with one eye, which evolves into Chatone, the Shadow Stone Pokemon. Looks like it's a little bit bigger, you know. It's got one arm coming out of the top. And then this evolves into Boulder Wraith. I got the name for this from Water Wraith from Pikmin. But actually, I do think this name is one of the best names I come up with. Boulder Wraith, I think, would be a really cool name for a rock ghost type. It doesn't look very intimidating, but I just sort of wanted to give him this appearance of like a little, like a ghost, but just with like rocks all over him. I mean, I really wanted to have the idea of the rock going around one of its eyes. So that was really the most important part of its design. Now we have Puron, the peacock Pokemon. Again, you could probably see some of these designs were drawn a lot more recently because they look a lot better. They still don't look great, some of the other ones. This is just a pure, is he pure psychic or psychic flying? Pure psychic, but he's got levitate. Ooh, I'm creative because it's a bird. Sees the psychic type. I really like their design. It looks crazy coloring, like the shinies colors are crazy. You have At Cloud, the large cloud Pokemon, based off Huff and Puff from Paper Mario. Of course. Then we have Crystallix. This is where I'm talking about, where I have my own little evolutions and stuff like that, like regional forms. So we have Crystallix here, the Crystal Snake Pokemon. This is the evolution of Tanrusian Onyx, which is the Crystal Onyx that was from the anime. It's so stupid they haven't came up with that idea yet. So, Game Freak, you're allowed to take this idea. I do not care. This is the most obvious idea you could ever have. So I had a Girafarig evolution before Game Freak. Obviously, you had to do the palindrome name, where it's the same front and backwards, just like Girafarig. But this is a psychic fire type, where the back end is just on fire. And so you'll see the Tanrusian Girafarig later. Basically just looks like regular Girafarig, but colors are slightly different and its tail is on fire. This is the evolution where the tail becomes an entire another half. Dunsparce evolution. Apparently Game Freak just likes taking all of my ideas in Scarlet and Violet. So this is a bug dragon type, another typing that I cannot believe we don't have, but I made Tanrusian Dunsparce a bug type because it kind of looks like a bug, and now his evolution is just basically a bigger Dunsparce with, bigger wings. He's a dragon type. Bug dragon is a type we should have. I don't know why the heck they have never done it. They should do it soon. If they don't, I'm gonna be mad. Then we have Mastoswine here, the regional version of Mamoswine. So I have a Swinub and Piloswine form, but not Mamoswine. It evolves into Mastoswine instead. Now this Pokemon doesn't look good, but think of the tusks as like, they're basically trees. They're made of wood. That's what I think of it as. Its fur, is basically leaves, or like grass. They have Alufalant. Again, you probably guess this is a more recent idea because it's become from Buffalant. So Tanrusian Buffalant is a fighting type, but it evolves into a steel fighting type, which is wearing armor. I think it looks cool. You probably don't. I like it. Then we have Spirasul here. This is just a little sealed orb, kind of, I guess is what you would call it. It's supposed to be like this demonic Pokemon that there's only a couple of in the entire world, that was like a demon back hundreds and thousands of years ago that was sealed because they didn't want to release its anger. But if you find a forbidden seal, which is the item to evolve it, it evolves into Spiribus here, a crazy demon that is a dark ghost type. That's what it is. It's a very strong Pokemon. You can see it's the stats on Spirasul, very defensive. It evolves to only gains 10 in its base stats, but it's insanely off. You will not outspeed it. You will not live an attack. That's basically it. And then we have Willove here. Something I thought was cool that Gen 3 did. They had two, count them, two pseudo-legendaries. So we have Willove here. This is the first pseudo-legendary. It just looks like a little fairy Pokemon. This is the one I was talking about that I used AI for because I could not figure out how to make this actually look good. I should have just traced this or something so it actually looked like my design. But I'm not going to lie to you people. I'm going to be honest about what I'm doing. So that's Willove, which evolves into Witeri here, just a bigger fairy Pokemon. And then when it evolves with a Demon Stone, it evolves into Nefervier, a dark fairy type, which was a typing that didn't exist because I made this around like Gen 6. They didn't exist because we didn't have Impidimp with Grimmsnarl and all that jazz. And it looks like this, my idea was sort of like Maleficent, was like what I was trying to think of when I was trying to think of what this Pokemon looked like, which is why I went with this AI design, because it kind of comes across like what I was looking for. And now we have the second pseudo-legendary, Durator. Now this, you will see in the design, I basically tried to come up with a steel version of Totodile, because Totodile is my favorite Pokemon of all time. It was my first starter ever. So that's what he looks like. I think he is my favorite design in the entire game, or in the entire Pokedex. Him and his evolution line. So that's a Durator. He's an adorable little alligator. I love him. Then we have Duragon here, the steel dragon, sort of evolves into a slightly bigger dragon with 2 heads, because it's got dew in the name, and then it evolves into Durgaodon, the 5-headed dragon Pokemon. Steel dragon type. I love this Pokemon, as you will see here. That is the pseudo-legend, like the main pseudo-legendary. And I guess I'm kind of spoiling for something later down the line. This is the ace of the evil team leader. That's his ace. And now we're into the legendaries. So we have a trio here of the different layers of the earth, because I always loved science and things like that. So I had Crustodon here, who's supposed to be like the crust. Again, I think I had the same idea of like that same freaking monster from Lilo and Stitch. I can't think of the name. And then we have Mantilodon, which has crystal spikes on it here, which I got that idea from Diddy Kong from Super Mario Strikers Charged. That's what I think of with those crystals. And then we have Korodon, which is obviously the core of the earth. Sort of reminds me of like Heatran, but he's got, like a little lava river going down his back. And now we have Thorunder, which is the sort of like the At Cloud we had earlier. This is like the legendary versions of that. Again, sort of like an idea that I guess has been kind of created now with Thundurus and like Tornadus and Landorus, because I had the idea of like a Thundercloud Pokemon. That's literally what he is. He's a Thundercloud with a face. But what they didn't do is they didn't make an Ice type version. So I have Nimbusir here, who is the Ice Cloud Pokemon, Hailstorm Pokemon, whatever you want to call it. But now we are at the box art legendary, Saranim here. It is a water and fairy type Pokemon, and it is, as we saw earlier. Now, I think of it as like the body is like water, like it's like made out of like, like sentient water, and then the tail, wings, and everything. More just like made of scales, things like that. It's got a heart on its stomach, because of course it's the legendary Pokemon Heart. And then Pyrocon, the little dinosaur molten skeleton thing that I described earlier. You can't really see it, but on its chest there's a spade that's like made of lava on its chest. I think I definitely like Saranim more, but I also like water types way more than fire types, so I could be biased. And we have Wolstrom here, another just legendary. Think of this as like a shaman Darkrai kind of thing. Deoxys, Jirachi. So it's a ghost normal type, because this was before that we had Zorua and Zoroark, their Hisuian forms, which I love those 2 Pokemon, by the way. Like it's like a phantom ghost dog werewolf Pokemon, which I think is very cool. And now we're at Davinka, aka Arceus, whatever you want to say, before Arceus. I came up with the idea of a Pokemon that would be like the god of Pokemon, that would be every single type. Now, Arceus can't be every single type. I guess it kind of can be now with the Legends Arceus, because of the Legend plate where it literally can just change type every single turn. But this is literally every single type. So my idea is that it cannot take super effective damage. It can only take neutral, and it can be super effective on any single Pokemon. You will also see what the silhouette was. The silhouette was that it fuses with Pyrocon and Saranim. It fuses all together at the top of Mount Colossus in Pokemon Club. Sort of like, I guess you could say, the Ultra Necrozma kind of fight. It would be like that, but it would be like level 90 or some crap. Like, it would be super powerful. I tried to make it like, a kind of a combination of the 3, but I don't really think you see too much of Saranim. Like, you see the wings, the tail. Its arms look more like freaking octopus arms than like hands. But I do think the idea is cool. It's just, I can't draw well enough for it to actually look good. And now we're onto the Tanrusian forms. So you've got the Tanrusian Onyx here, the Crystal Onyx. Enough said. The Tanrusian Girafarig. Enough said, I already described it. Tanrusian Dunsparce. Just a Dunsparce, but green, and with like little compound eyes. Now we have the Swinub. It looks like Swinub because I traced it, and then just, how it has like lines on it normally, I turn those into leaves. And then obviously it's shiny, looks more like it's a regular color, but with autumn colored leaves. And same with Pillow-Swine. But because I didn't want it to just have, like the little pig nose, I gave it a little bit of a trunk, like you also saw in Mastaswine, how it has an actual like trunk. Then Bouffalant here. It's supposed to be like Bouffalant, but think of it's like how it has an afro. Think of that as like an old school football helmet, the ones made of leather. That's what I think of as its head. And then we have Tanrusian Rhyhorn, which I couldn't do a good idea of how to make this like slimmer. It's supposed to basically be Rhyhorn, Rhydon, and Rhyperior, but like skinnier. And so it's a ground fighting type instead of rock type. So it's not defensive, it's offensive. So that's Rhyhorn, Rhydon, and Rhyperior. They basically all look the same, just different coloring, because I couldn't really figure out exactly how to design it. And then I was talking about a slender Dragonite, Tanrusian Dragonite. It just looks like Dragonair, because this is what the freaking evolution should have looked like. Dragonite makes no freaking sense from Dragonair. I do not care what anyone says. Sorry about that. Went a little bit on a tangent, but yeah, I think it looks cool. I almost made the colors the same as Dragonair, but then it just basically just looked like Dragonair. So I had to make the colors like Dragonite. And then we have Tanrusian Slackoff, which still has Truant, and he's a fighting fairy type. I really like his regular kind of almost looks like his shiny coloring now that I think about it, but who cares? Then Tanrusian Vigoroth, same. But then we have Tanrusian Slacking here, who does not have Truant. Its stats are buffed down to 600, so I guess you could say there's almost 3 pseudo-legendaries. Or 4 if you want to count Dragonite too. But yeah, he stands on his legs, he doesn't sleep, he's not lazy. Fairy fighting type, I love him. These last two were the last 2 Pokemon I ever had the ideas for. Tanrusian Blitzel, which is, I just think of him as like a basic Blitzel, but white, and then is like, where he normally has like the white electric bolts, it's like a rainbow, like flowing, because it's a fairy type, electric fairy. And same with Zebstrika, it's the same kind of idea. I really like that idea. And then this was the last Pokemon idea I ever had, Tanrusian Litleo. Literally just Litleo, but like, I think of it as like Scar, kind of. That you'll see with the evolution. Like, that's what I think of with like the dark coloring. Fire Dark type, and then Pyroar. Fire Dark type. It's shiny, looks a little bit more similar to its normal coloring, but not exactly the same. So yeah, that is every single Pokemon. I just went through that. I feel like I've been recording for like an hour. It's probably only been like 40 minutes. I cannot see the time on this. I do not want to see what it is. But now we have the gym leaders here. So the first gym leader here is Cedric back in Carbon City, bug type with Hornasp and Tanrusian Dunsparce. Then we have Pandora from the poison type for Tolliver Town, which is Junction, Venob, and Toxion. Velix Bay, ground type, Bormer, Duggle, and Quakeon. You will see I did my best to make sure every single gym leader did not have old Pokemon. The post-game and Elite Four, I said screw it, but for the main 8 gym leaders, they do not have any repeat Pokemon. Or old Pokemon. So next we have Pristine City, Electric type, Angolt, Elecat, Grizzlite, and Tanrusian Zebstrika. Then we have Heather for the flying type, which got Rilcon, Infernape, Glaciard, and Atcloud as her ace. Antonio, the water type, Geobster, Zyphon, Emprise, and Gigalodon. Seraphina, the ghost type, Feehone, Phantom, Matros, Torps, and Fanteon. And then the grass type, because I always think it's stupid, there's never been a grass type like gym leader like later on. They're always early, like 4th gym or earlier. So I think it would be cool to have it be the last gym leader. Shreep, Lactal, Bisol, Burnawood, and Mastaswine. And then we have the Elite Four here. So we've got Bruce here, the fighting type, Bruce Lee. Conkeldurr, Lucario, Tanrusian, Rhyperior, Vitunch, and Predadodo. Then Orabella, Scizor, Aegislash, Stellaria, and Metalord, Steel type. Then we have Destiny, the Psychic type, Gardevoir, Alakazam, Pyraphorip, Piron, and Mistorian. And then Kaido, the Dragon type, Turtonator, Duraludon, Dunsvern, Tanrusian Dragonite, and Dragzanil. And then the champion, the leader of Team Colossus. Whoa, the crazy plot twist. Yeah, so I thought it would be cool to make the bad guys the league champion. So these 4 are all the admins for Team Colossus. You might not fight all 4 of them. I never really thought like fully through like, you know, who'd fight. But you fight at least like 2 of them for sure throughout the game, and you see them here. And then you obviously have fought Craixen throughout the game, the leader of Team Colossus. And so he's got an Elufalant, a Scorperion, a Nature Raptor, a Torcazadra, a Hyviathan. He's got all 3 of those dragons, and then Durgaidon. My voice just cracked in the most important part of the video. Son of a bitch! Pokemon that I think most fully encapsulates like the ultimate final battle, a 5-headed dragon. So now we've got the Talus Island gym leaders here. So we've got Amber, the rock type. It's got Aggron, Crustle, Geobster, Krager, and Boulder Wraith. You can see I've got some more older Pokemon here. Then Henry Town, the normal type. Stoutland, Oranguru, Pazrat, Ebatros, and Lunarique. Udraport, fire type. Arcanine, Salazzle, Infernape, Arizula, and Tyrusian and Pyroar. Etrick City, the fairy type. Togekiss, Mimikyu, Diamanix, Ciclin, and Ferrocorn. Ice type, Irwin, Zelfor Town. Abomasnow, Lapras, Dendrox, Sabros, Crystallix, and then Komiro, the dark type, Pangoro, Obstagoon, Scorpus, Shadowers, and Nefervier. And then the Talus Islands champion is the professor. I always thought it was stupid that you never fought like any professor, because this was before Professor Sycamore. Gotta be good at battling at least a little bit. So he's got a Spirasul, who he gives to you after you beat him. And then you got Terrapede, Tanrusian Slacking, Atcloud, the third starter, because obviously your rival picks the other starter that's strong against you, so this is the starter that's weak to you, and then his ace, Dialect Tricra. Again, I did my best to make sure every single, like, major battle has a completely different, like, ace, except for when we get to this part, the Pokemon World Champions. So this is a very long tournament where you fight every champion from the past region. So you start with Alder. I'm not going to go through their teams, because I basically just tried to pick whatever their strongest team was, or if they're like in the Pokemon World Tournament in Gen 5. I basically, once that happened, I just basically copied their team there. So you have Alder, Diantha, the first 2 rounds, and Leon, which I added once Gen 8 came around. Then Iris, then we have Steven Stone here, which I don't know why I put his full name and nobody, well, I guess no one else really has a last name, so I guess he kind of deserves it, and I love Steven, he's one of my favorite. Then Lance, Blue, Cynthia, and then in the semifinals, you fight your rival. Sean is the basic name because I think Hank was the name of the main guy, because it was Heart and Spade, so I wanted a name that started with H and one that started with S. So that's his team. He's got all Pokemon from Tanru for his team. And then the finals, I wish I could copy up the right side here because it's kind of a spoiler, but the finals is against freaking Red here. He's the strongest trainer in any game, so I had to make him the finals. And then the current world champion is your dad, Christopher, because I always thought it was stupid that your dad isn't around. Shout out to Norman for being the one dad that actually sticks around. But again, I wanted a name that started with C for Club, because we got Hank and Sean for Heart and Spade, and now Christopher for Club. So he is the current world champion. His Pokemon, all level 100. The entire tournament's all level 100. And so he's got some super strong Pokemon, and it kind of gets cut off here, but you can see that his ace is the same starter as you, with the exact same moveset as you. It's literally a copy and pasted version of your starter, but it's level 110, because he's the current world champion. He's allowed to cheat. We had Lance cheat before. That is my entire idea of Pokemon Heart and Spade, the Tanru region. So many Pokemon that I just went through. It's crazy. This took me, like I said, the ideas for this came over years. It's a lot of content, but I'm sure there are people that are way better than me. I'm sorry for all my horrible drawings, but yeah, if you want to make a better drawing for any of these, go ahead. I will not be mad whatsoever, because I know my drawings suck. I hope you like the Tanru region, and if you have any fake regions or fake Pokemon of your own, please let me see them in the comments. I love looking at fake Pokemon. It's one of my favorite things to do. As you can see, I've been doing this since I was a kid, and I'm just very happy that I'm actually going to put this out on the internet now, so it's not just sitting on my computer for me to look at and no one else. Now other people can see how freaking stupid I am. So that was the Tanru region. Let me know which Pokemon of mine was your favorite, and which one was the least favorite that should never see the light of day again, and why I am so stupid for creating it. I know my favorite is definitely Durgaidon, so I'm going to send it off to Game Freak and see what they think. Game Freak just got back to me. Let's take a look at this. Dear Evan, due to you stealing our likeness and ideas, we are sentencing you to 10 years in prison. Wait, no! I didn't even steal the idea from Pokemon! That was from Yu-Gi-Oh!